that's what we've been doing the last few services. So.
All right, let's all take a nice deep breath on this beautiful day. Can you see this beautiful sun shining through for the very first time here on Yom Kippur morning at Shir Shalom? It's so peaceful. Those of you that noticed the deer, unfortunate hap with the deer, it is not an omen. I'm supposed to assure you. It's just real life. That's what we deal with on Yom Kippur, and it was a reminder of our mortality as we come in. So we're going to go through our list of greetings. So if you meet someone, if you're new here, if this is your first time going to a Yom Kippur service, at least you'll know what to say. So we're going to go through all of them, okay? So we'll start off with Shana Tova. Shana Tova. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Yontif.
Good Yontif.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Somkal.
Somkal.
I think we got them all, okay? We did Gemar Chatima Tova. Did we do that one? We got everything, all right. Well, what a pleasure and how wonderful it is to be together here, just to be able to sit together, to be together, to do our holidays, traditions in a way that we can be proud of, to invite our choir in, and everyone that comes from near and far. It really makes a difference. All of you joining virtually, we also extend a hand. So I'm going to bring over Bruce to officially welcome you.
Lashana Tova, Shabbat Shalom. How wonderful is it for all us to be together today. It may be a solemn holiday, but there's still joy in this room because we are together. It has been a difficult year for many members of our family. We have lost loved ones. There have been challenges along the way, but we are together on the high holidays, and we are with each other. And there's a level of joy and comfort in this room that we are sharing with each other, and it is a wonderful feeling. Rabbi alluded to the windows. We have the sun coming in, which is a wonderful thing. The room is, these are our first high holidays in our newly remodeled sanctuary, which is wonderful. Thank you to Mitch and Vicki Rubin for their generous donation, allowing us to do it. And as our building moves into its second 65 years, the building is 65 years old this month. We are moving ahead with a new beginning. And we look around the room and we look at all the lights that are lit of those that we've lost, and we are their legacy. This temple is their legacy, and it's a legacy that will move forward with a good foundation and a wonderful group of people. So Lashana Tova, a happy, healthy, safe, uneventful, peaceful, and better year. I think I covered all the bases there. And I'll be back later with the announcements. We have a lot of stuff coming up in addition to high holiday stuff. So happy and healthy New Year.
I always like to do a reminder also for those of you fasting, you're not supposed to get injured on this holiday, or like if you're feeling faint, or we have lots of medical professionals here, but also just go easy too as well. We are going to begin on page 135, and I'd like to, Bruce, you stepped away. We need you here. Okay. Just a reminder, those of you coming up, I do have a large print Machzor here, and so feel free. So 135, we thank you.
Look who's back. We thank you, living and eternal one, for morning light, for the breath within us, for strength and life renewed. Now it opens before us, this Sabbath of Sabbaths, gift of spacious contemplation, mirror for the soul. May we see our lives reflected in this still, clear pool, a day apart, unhurried time, an undivided mind. Give us joy in this day that Israel shares. Give us presence and attention, clear vision, a listening heart. We wake to the morning. We open our eyes. We breathe your name.
I like how he found the perfect resting place for your cane. That was really nice. I invite everyone to rise, page 178, for our call of community. Look around at our spectacular community here.
Oh
Shema, page 186, 187. I invite Larry and Gail Kerman, who will be leading us in the Via Hafta. You may be seated. We continue with the Via Hafta 188 and 191.
Please join us.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha v'chol moedecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher Elohim mitzvah hayom ha'levavecha v'shinantam levavecha Vivartam, Vishiftecha, Vitecha, Uvlectecha, Vadere, Ushoptecha, Uvkumecha, Ushatam Leot, Al Yodecha, Eloyu Letotafot, Beinenecha, Uvtatam, Al Mizot Beitecha, Uvishorecha, Laman Tishkaru Asitem et Kol Mitzvotai Vitem Kedoshim Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeti Etem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot Lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
We are going to turn in our Machzor to page 189. I'd like to invite up Amy O'Donnell to lead us, When You Love.
When you love Adonai Elohecha, body and soul, these things I ask of you will be possible. To answer your children's questions about me and believe your answers yourselves. To connect religion to your everyday comings and goings. For example, when you hug them in bed at night with tender words, Shema Yisrael, or when you think to say Moda Ani in the rush of getting them up and out in the morning. To be alert enough to open the doors for your children in every waking moment and when they dream. And finally, to remember just why all these things matter. They matter because I, Adonai Elohecha, brought you and your children out of Egypt to be God for you. I am your God, and when you do these things, I will be your children's God.
I'd like to invite up Deborah Cohen and Rick Mahler for a reading that's not in our prayer book, but is so special it actually was included in the old Sinai book, Mamad Sinai. It's called Love Letter to the Third Planet. It's one of my favorite readings.
Love letter to a third planet.
Little brown planet draped in a shawl,
Of swirled white and blue,
though you are not cloaked in mystery like Venus,
nor ringed in splendor like Saturn.
nor awesome in majesty like Jupiter,
Little brown planet,
if I were God,
you would be my chosen planet.
and I would gift you with elephants for grandeur,
Great oaks for endurance,
golden grasses for warmth,
tawny leopards for grace, orchids for glory,
Giraffes for whimsy,
rabbits for gladness.
and flamingos for fun.
And when I had bedazzled you with every wonder my being could create,
I would then charge you with its possessions.
for if you corrupt or destroy it, there is no one to repair it after you.
I think they're going to get the Oscar for that. That was wonderful. We're going to continue with the Micha Mocha, singing about overcoming challenges, page 196 in the traditional High Holiday motif.
שיר החדש שבקעו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחר כולם הודו והמלכו ועברו ישראל, ובתיכנו מך יהודה וישראל. God made God and Adonai Sevaot Shamo Kadosh Israel. Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Turn to page 198. I'd like to invite up Sheila Bernard Tucker. There you are, to lead us in Standing Before God.
In the depths of night, by the edge of the river, Jacob was left alone. In heartfelt longing, in the temple of God, Hannah uttered her prayer alone. In the barren wilderness, in doubt and despair, Elijah found God alone. On the holiest day, in the Holy of Holies, the high priest entered alone. We are bound to one another in myriad ways, but each soul needs time to itself. In solitude, we meet the solitary one. Silence makes space for the small, still voice. For the psalmist says, deep calls unto deep. From the depths of our soul, we seek what is most profound.
We rise for our silent meditation, our silent Amida from pages 198 to 205. Take this time for your own private prayers and reflections, and whenever you're ready, you may be seated. I'd like to call up Walter and Diane Gordon. And we're going to continue with our prayers on page 202 with Zochreinu. We're going to bring this. Page 209, an introduction to the Unatana Tokef prayer. Diane and Walter.
I'm starting. Today we call it by its rightful name, a day of dread, Norah Vayom. Unwelcome visitor, for we want to live in a sunny world where God is love and all endings are happy.
But the drumbeat sounds and the words tumble down, and even the angels tremble with fear. For all things are judged, and all things will pass, and life ends in a heartbeat, and death knows our name.
At the start of the year, in the season of truth, comes the day of remembrance for all we forget and all we deny. And we fall on our knees in the depths of our hearts, for we know that the bell tolls for us.
The words are old, and the language was theirs, but the call is real, and the message is ours. Take hold of your life while you still have the chance, for your story will end. It might be this year in a way you don't know. Take hold of your life and make things right while you can, and don't miss the call of the day of dread.
You might have seen Diane and Walter's beautiful face when you came in. They will be coming up in a little bit. As we move to the Unatana Tokef prayer, the introduction that Walter and Diane read, it's a reminder that sometimes in our society today we think our lives go on forever, however old we are. We lived to a certain age. But of course, everything is out of our control, and we sing to our own mortality. It's important, especially in our culture today, just to remind ourselves that every moment that we live is sacred. 208 in the middle, I'll turn it to Cantor and the choir to lead us in Unatana Tokef. Together, let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. We turn to the next page. And so a great shofar will cry, Tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a world of fear and trembling will say, "Behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes, even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you, like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments." And we continue on the next page, page 212. Together. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? who by earthquake and who by plague, who by strangling and who by stoning, who will rest and who will wander, who will be tranquil and who will be troubled, who will be calm and who tormented, who will live in poverty and who in prosperity, who will be humbled and who exalted, on the next page, but through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. Continue on page 214. At the top there, let's see, hold on, we're calling up Joanne Marquesi and Robert Altman for The Birds They Sang. That's on a different page, sorry, page 251. While Joanne and Robert are coming up here, just an announcement, there is, Joanne will talk. Tova, is there Tova here? Their car is running. I think they're trying to make a quick getaway. As Joanne and Robert are coming up here, we always have beautiful melodies. My favorite singer in the entire congregation is Jessica in the back of the room over here. She is a beautiful singer, and if you hear her voice, that is going straight to God. And she loves to sing, especially the Shema. So when you hear it, always brings such joy to my heart. See? And we, of course, have Mel and Sarah's babies, who also are wonderful voices here. Their first Yom Kippur.
The birds they sing at the break of day start again, I heard them say. Don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be.
The wars they will be fought again, the holy dove be caught again, bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free.
Ring the bells that still can ring.
Forget your perfect offering.
There is a crack in everything.
That is how the light gets in.
Of course, from Leonard Cohen, a child of a cantor who has such beautiful poetry, especially for Yom Kippur. We're going to turn to page 252, which is Avinu Malkeinu. This is a petitionary prayer that often is not said on Shabbat, but we're going to say it because this is a year where, as someone told me last night, God should come to us and ask forgiveness for what's happened in the world. And so we're going to take exception here on Avinu Malkeinu. I'm going to open the ark and we're going to rise and recite responsibly. Responsibly. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew us for a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, Treat us with tender compassion.
Together, Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. You may be seated. Shana Tova, Gemar Chatima Tova, Somkal. And before I begin speaking, I'm going to bring these for myself. They're here if anyone needs them. The first funeral I ever attended was in February of 1996. It was for a woman that I knew in an undergraduate named Sarah Duker. We were in the same friend group, and for a while I had a crush on her. A few years later, she had met a rabbinical student from the Jewish Theological Seminary and had fallen in love. They had been in Israel that year as part of his studies. A petite, intensely shy 23-year-old from Teaneck, New Jersey, Sarah, when I knew her, often wore a hat and was very religiously observant. That November, Israel's Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, had been assassinated, leaving the peace process in shambles. But still, there was optimism and newly opened borders, especially with Jordan. Sarah and Matt, trying to take advantage of that opportunity, had boarded the number 18 bus that Sunday morning to head off to catch a bus to Petra. For those of you who know, on Sunday morning, that's the start of the work week in Israel. The bus was crowded and noisy, and few people noticed a person coming on with a strange package, a book bag. When the bomb exploded, it killed Sarah and Matt, along with 23 others, injuring scores more. A few days later, over 1,000 people packed into the large conservative synagogue in Stamford, Connecticut, where Matt's family lived. This was the first time I had ever witnessed the Jewish mourning rituals. After several psalms and speakers, Sarah's mom spoke about how she pictured her daughter and her future son-in-law holding hands in their final moment. I, along with everyone else, was completely numb. 7 years later, in the summer of 2002, I lost two more friends, Marla Bennett and Ben Bluestein, to a terrorist attack in Jerusalem. They were killed at the bombing of Frank Sinatra Cafe on the campus of Hebrew University. They were eating lunch between classes, studying to become Jewish educators. This one was even more personal to me. I had spent the entire year before studying with both Marla and Ben at Pardes, a liberal Orthodox. I know it's an oxymoron, but they exist. A liberal Orthodox yeshiva around near the German colony. Marla had sat by me almost every day in our Torah class. From San Diego, she was sweet and quiet, with short cropped hair and a big smile. I remember that she always lined up a row of colored pencils before class. She said she wanted the pages of the Torah and the Talmud to be colorful. Ben and I were closer friends. He was from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is where my mother's family was from. And we had many, many people in common. He had even attended the Shiva for my grandfather the year before. An aspiring DJ, he was loud and boisterous and full of life. He told the head of our yeshiva, "I never spin on Shabbos." He would literally, and I got to watch him in Israel. I got to watch him in Jerusalem. He was learning how to do it, bring all of his records, and he would be there spinning all night and then come to yeshiva in the morning to study. They were both in their early 20s. When I learned the news, the pain was indescribable. I was at a large Jewish conference in New Hampshire. We held an impromptu service for them. I wrote poetry in their memory, wondering how could this have happened? Who could have perpetrated something so evil? As the week of mourning went by, I remember this strong feeling emerging from within me. If this was a test between the bomber's vision of the world, full of cynicism and hatred, and my friend's vision, full of love, life, and hope, I didn't want the bomber's vision to be the one that won out. I wanted it to be my friend's vision. In my estimation, if I let anger and revenge consume me, then the bomber would have won. If I stayed stuck in the moment of their death, the bomber would have won. But if I used the memory of my friends to fuel me to do acts of loving kindness, to live out the values that they had exhibited in their too short life, to become a better person, then my friends would have won. I didn't want the images of destroyed buildings and mangled bodies to be what I thought of when I pictured my friends. I wanted it to be their smiling faces and all the good times that we shared together. And actually brought some pictures. Back then, they didn't have a lot of cell phone use, so there's not too much online, but this is my friend Ben. This is Marla. And this is Matt and Sarah. When October 7th happened, all those feelings I had and those difficult times came flooding back to me. Only this was worse, much worse. The news was inescapable. Every day there were more and more horror stories. Wasn't just a few dozen people, but thousands. And not just killed, but held hostage as well. As an act of self-preservation, I didn't want to look at what I was seeing in the news. I didn't want to be consumed by anger and revenge. I didn't want the terrorist vision to win out. So for most of this past year, I have tried my best to keep the distance from what was going on. From the news and social media and even conversations with friends. But as stories from October 7th flooded in, the names and faces of the hostages and those who were lost on that day kept popping up everywhere I went. At night, before I went to bed, Ashira would remind me of stories she had heard that day. One of her Israeli friend's brothers, Tal Elam, was killed protecting his family at Kibbutz Kfar Aza. And actually, her friend knows that we're speaking about him and remembering him on this day. She would tell me of the youngest hostage, baby Kfir, a 7-month-old, who was kidnapped along with his 4-year-old brother Ariel. She told me about a pregnant woman, a newly married couple, and a Holocaust survivor who were all being held hostage. As hard as I tried, it was impossible to look away. One name in particular came up more than others, again and again and again. I think a lot of you are familiar, Hirsch Goldberg Pollen. He was one of the 251 abducted. He and his best friend Aner were at the Nova Music Festival celebrating his 23rd birthday that occurred a few days before that. As terrorists swarmed the festival, they quickly scrambled into a nearby shelter to bunker themselves in. Somewhere around this time, he texted his parents, "I love you." And later, "I'm sorry." News had already begun to spread throughout Israel, and he must have known they were scared to death. And for good reason, as he texted, the terrorists were slinging grenades into their bunker. Each time, Aner and Hirsch would sling them right back. 7 times this happened, and on the 8th time, the grenade exploded, killing Aner and blowing off of Hirsch's left arm to the elbow. He fastened a makeshift tourniquet to stop the bleeding. A video taken at the scene showed Hirsch being carted off in a pickup truck. A joyful young man, Hirsch was a symbol of everything right about the world. For 329 days, he languished underground, malnourished, tortured, only to be killed along with 5 others the last day of August, as IDF soldiers approached overhead. After 11 months in captivity, he was mere minutes away from being rescued. As much as I wanted to look away, to not let his story really seep into me, I couldn't, because every day around the world, his parents, John and Rachel, were sharing his story. A quiet family, they put themselves out there, not just to free Hirsch, but to free all the hostages. They shared his story over and over again. They shared it to journalists in Israel, where I was at the March for Israel in Washington, D.C., with the Pope, and even at the Democratic National Convention. Each time they ended with a message. Hirsch, if you can hear us, we love you. Stay strong. Survive. And when they shared his story, they not only shared about their son's abduction, but they shared about the entirety of his life. They shared about his early childhood growing up in the Bay Area. How at 3 years old, Hirsch would grill them on the toughest of life questions as they walked to get coffee. How as a kindergartner, he knew so many facts about U.S. presidents, he would actually charge adults for answers to them. How when they decided to make Aliyah as a family when Hirsch was only 7 years old, he wanted to retain his name, even if Israelis would have trouble pronouncing it. They shared about a time in 6th grade in Israel when he learned about the many Africans seeking asylum. You could see them up and down the roads in Tel Aviv. And Hirsch insisted on going to rallies and taking his parents and sisters to rallies on their behalf. He even went after one of these rallies. He scoped out his home looking for a hiding place for them, and he found it in the dishwasher. He said, "We can hide 2 here." They also spoke about his love of traveling, going to music festivals, about how the summer before he was abducted last summer, he had gone by himself to 6 different music festivals in 6 different countries. By himself. And more importantly, they spoke about what a good person he was, curious about the world. He would engage with anyone, anywhere. As his father John said, Hirsch was always seeking to understand the other, always with dignity and respect. Each time his parents shared his story, Hirsch would come alive to me a little bit more. His picture began to shine even in my dreams. John and Rachel were more than just random strangers in the world. They had become like family members. And each time they spoke, it was not a message full of hate, but full of love. I have their picture here with me, too. This is John and Rachel and Hirsch before the summer before. At his funeral in early September, just about a month ago, they spoke not out of anger and spite, but barely referenced October 7th at all. Instead, they focused on how much their son meant to them. Here's what Rachel said at the funeral. I've had a lot of time the past 332 days to think about my sweet boy, my Hirsch. And one thing I keep thinking about is how out of all the mothers in the world, God chose to give Hirsch to me. What must I have done in a past life to deserve such a beautiful gift? It must have been glorious. For 23 years, I was privileged to have this most stunning treasure, to be Hirsch's mama. I'll take it and say thank you. I just wish it had been a little longer. And from John, the 23 years of life that we had with you were a blessing. We will now work to make your legacy a similar blessing. You were a really great guy. I love you. Each of the roughly 1,200 people who lost their lives on October 7th and the 251 more who were abducted, 101 of which are still in captivity, 101, has a face and a story. Each of them has people who love them and who will miss them the rest of the days of their life. Each of them has left an imprint on this world, no matter how big or small. Each of them deserves to have their story shared, not only about their deaths, but about their lives. The traditional Torah portion for Yom Kippur is from Acharei Mot, a portion that means after the death. In it, we see Aaron, a proud papa. It must have been a tremendous and overwhelming grief, have to struggle to fulfill his role as high priest, because his eldest sons, his heirs, Nadav and Abihu, had been taken from him in a tragic sacrificial accident. Trying to emulate their father, they took what was deemed a foreign fire, an Eish Zarah, up to the altar and were suddenly struck down. While no specific time frame is given for our chosen reading for today, we imagine that it is occurring in the days and weeks after the accident. In his time of mourning, Aaron now must somehow put what happened to his sons behind him to fulfill his duty as high priest. This is the context of the ritual of the scapegoat, the ritual of Yom Kippur, the central service for this day, where in front of the entirety of the people, Aaron must take 2 goats, one as a sacrifice and one to be sent out into the wilderness. In the portion itself, we are told nothing about what Aaron must have been actually going through on this day, nothing about the extreme pain he must have been in, what he must have been thinking or feeling in that moment, how each step must have been excruciating, how each action must have been a knife in his heart. We only see him walk step by step towards the altar, the same altar his sons were killed on to fulfill his duty as high priest. Every year I read this, I want to scream at Aaron to stop, to tend to his own needs, to be given the space to grieve that any parent who loses a child fully deserves. But in my heart of hearts, I understand Aaron would not have wanted this. He is not performing these rites and rituals to deaden the memory of his sons, but rather to keep their memory alive. Our tradition teaches us that above everything else, we should always bachor chaim, choose life. Choosing life means being generous with our hearts, believing in the overall goodness of humanity and not demonizing our most fervent enemies. The terrorists win when we begin to see the world as black and white, when we cannot look with compassion at people suffering, including and most especially Palestinians. We may hate Hamas, but we cannot close up our hearts to the tremendous loss of life in Gaza. That is what Hirsch would have wanted. That is what we owe all the victims of this awful day, of that awful day. Several years after the bombing of Bus 18, I went back to my alma mater, the Jewish Theological Seminary. It was Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah. We know about Simchat Torah now. The most joyous of all holidays, the day we parade with our Torahs through the halls of our synagogue and the streets of our cities. I remember going into the basement of the seminary and seeing a room that had been dedicated in the memory of my friends, the Matthew Eisner and Sarah Duker Beit Midrash study hall. The tears of their loss still burned in my soul, but the suffering was eased by the enthusiasm of the holiday. We danced in circles, raising the Torahs high above our heads, exactly as Matt and Sarah would have done in their all too short lives. There's a saying that the survivors of the Nova Music Festival have been sharing, and I actually heard it from Tomer and Cheval, who are here, that will share our stories in just a little while. We will dance again. We will dance again. By dance again, they mean live again, full of life and love, just like they did prior to October 7th. When I close my eyes to think of my friends, I do not think of the horror of how they died. I imagine the joy of how they lived, their faces beaming with pride at the way their memories have been shared from one person to the next. This is just their pictures again. That's Matt and Sarah again. Marla. Ben. And John, Rachel, and Hirsch. The names of the bombers have been lost to the sands of time. In this ways, my friends have won. We all have. I conclude with the words that Hirsch's father, John, has begun to use each time he talks about his son. Not Yehi Zichrono Livracha. May his memory be for a blessing, but Yehi Zichrono Lemahapecha. May his memory be for a revolution. By revolution, he means something different than the normal way we use the word. He means a shofar blast to wake up the world, to make it better, not through violence and war, but through friendship and cooperation. Not through hatred and enmity, but through love and friendship. This is how we will truly honor the memory of my friends. This is how we will ensure their memories are always for a blessing. On this Day of Atonement, please join me in saying, Yehi Zikronam Mahapecha. May their memories be for a revolution. May all of us be written and sealed in the book of a life well lived. Ashana Tova Umetuka Yoter. A good year, a sweet year, a better year. We'll take a moment of silence just to collect our thoughts. And I'd like to bring up, as we're sitting there on page 254, I'd like to bring up Joe Glickman.
Bring the Torah into our midst. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, a meditation to remind us what we strive for, a chant that binds us to the chain of generations. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, a moment of purest solidarity with our people's hopes and history, an invitation to affirm or dissent, to challenge or believe, to ask why or say amen. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, flowing like waters that renew the spirit, refreshing and sweet to nourish the soul. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, every word a blessing, every verse a conversation with God.
We're going to be turning now to our Torah service, which is on page 256. And I'm going to need to invite up our Torah quick carriers, Todd, Larry Poses, Lil Duquette Reich, and Marina Finkelstein. If you, Kyle, could come up here. Oh, sorry, Lil is a Torah dresser, I apologize. We'll be needing you later. Okay, perfect. All right. We're going to open the ark as we turn to the 13 attributes of God, and that is on page 256.
Adonai, Adonai, Herachu v'chanu, Erech Hamayim, v'rav chesed v'emet, Noseh chesed la'alafim, Noseh
Responsively, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah Shemo. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah Shemo. Gadlul Adonai.
Lecha Adonai Abdullah Yagivura V'hatiferet V'hanetzach V'ha'od Ki kol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz Ki kol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz Lecha Adonai Olam Ha'alacha Ve'arina
readers and Aliyah. We're going to bring up, first of all, Frank Flipstein for the first Aliyah, and Laura Majewski. The Torah reading is on page 266. We're in Deuteronomy 29:9. And we're going to have Harvey Horowitz serve as the gabbai. Thank you. I knew I forgot something.
Boru et Adonai Hambora.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bochar banu mikol ha'amim v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem Rashechem shiftechem ziknechem v'shotrechem kol ish Yisrael Tapechem neshechem v'gerecha asher b'kerev machanecha mechotev eitzecha ad shoev memecha liavrecha bivrit Adonai Elohecha uve'alato asher Adonai Elohecha koreit imacha hayom Lema'an hakim otecha hayom lo le'am v'hu yihye lecha le'elohim ka'asher diber lach v'cha'asher nishba la'avotecha le'avraham le'yitzchak u'le'yakov V'lo itachem levarechem anochi koreit et habarit hazot ve'et ha'ala hazot ki et asher yashno po imanu omed hayom lifnei Adonai Eloheinu ve'et asher einenu Po imanu hayom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher notan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam notah b'toveinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
For the second Aliyah, we bring up, first of all, Ganilla Kester to be the reader, and Dan Kester for the Aliyah. Yamdu, Ha-Kesters, and Anya, and Sherry. Okay, we're adding more. Anyone else?
Do we have a yacht?
Yeah, let's get a yacht.
Got it.
All right, I think we're going forward to here.
Oh,
is
yeah.
it? I think we're here. Is it Vahayat Kitabo? There you go. Perfect.
Am I supposed to stand on this?
Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Hamim, Lenatamanu et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai, Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ki mitzvah zot asher Anuchi mitzavecha hayom lo nifleti mimecha velo rechoka hi lo vashamayim hi lemor miyale lanu hashamayma v'yikache alanu v'yashmienu ota v'nasena ולא מעבר לים היא לאמור מיד ויקחיה לנו וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד בפיך ובלבבך לעשותו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
We're going to bring up Nicholas Lowinger and Gwen Lowinger. Nick to read the Torah and Gwen to be called up to the Torah. Tamod, Proud Mama, Lalia, Shlishi. And what verse? What are we on right now? Let's see.
We're on verse 15.
We're on page 268, Deuteronomy 30, verse 15. Here's the one. Everyone else brought their own yatsa, but I got mine.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacher banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ra'eh natati lefanecha hayom et hachaim v'et hatov v'et hamavet v'et hara asher anochi metzavecha hayom le'ahava et Adonai Elohecha la'lechet bidrachav v'lishmor mitzvotav v'chukotav u'mishpatav v'chayita v'ravita u'v'rechecha Adonai Elohecha ba'aretz asher ata v'shama lirishta v'im yifnei levavecha v'lo tishma v'nidakta v'hashta chavita le'elohim acherim va'avdatam. Higadati lachem hayom ki avod tov edun lo ta'arifun yamim al ha'adama asher ata over et hayarden lavo shama lirishta. Hidoti bachem hayom et hashamayim v'et haaretz hachayim v'hamavet natati lefanecha habaracha v'hakelala uvacharta b'chayim למען תחיה אתה וזרעך לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך לשמוע בקולו ולדבקבו כי הוא חייך ואורך ימיך לשבת על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לכם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu et Torato v'chayei olam nato v'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
It's nice to have yourself. Beautiful job. We're going to take an opportunity now to have our prayer for healing. As we're getting set up for the healing prayer, it's going to be on page 272, Heal Us Now. I'm going to read the list of names from our congregation. And we're going to have people call out the names of people that you're thinking of. As a congregation, we are thinking about Neil Agneta, Sammy Altman, Hope Bongiorno, Reverend Jim Collan, David Cohen, Eric Dennis, Gloria Fine, Barbara Frieda, Carol Gettings, Beverly Giesler, Denise and Jared Gilden, Dick Gordon, Carolyn and Ernie Grosser, Barbara Kane, Remy Levine, Maya Ruth Corin Matlock, Miles Levy, Gail Lewis, Jake Lipshin, Angelo Logalbo, Shelby Madsen, Michael Malik, Howard Lewis Myers, Terry Miller, Gail Nosenchuk, Judy Osowitz, Angela Robillard, Sharon Rosenthal, Cheryl Rossi, Cindy Rotella, David Robner, Paul Roy, Brandon Ryan, Rana Schultz, Deb Serino, Carol Silverman, Wyatt Alexander Simpson, Gary Spiceman, Robin Weinstein, Mike Wheeler, Gail Zaretsky, Jillian Zabala, Chana Bat Shoshana, Meyer Yaakov, Carla Bat Chana, Ruvain Ben Moshe, Yosef Ben Zissel, Hindasara Bat Rachel, and Chana Ezra Ben Shul. As we're going around, we'll also need in just a bit Michael Schwartz and Lil Duquette, if you could just come up here as well. Yeah.
Megan Murphy, Faith Dwyer, Judy Houston. Sheila Jacob, Washington. Judy Goldstein, Scott Harmon, Golden Abraham, Russian Michelle Isbell. Gail
We bring all those names into our hearts as cantor and choir will lead us and heal us now. prayers go out to where they are needed. I invite you to rise as we lift the Torah, page 274. Just push down. Push down.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael od mi'Adonai b'yad Moshe.
We turn now to the additional reading for the day from Isaiah, page 275. And I'd like to invite up Ronnie DeBrouwen and Harvey Horwitz. They have been preparing a dual responsive way of doing this, so we're looking forward to it. Again, it's page 277.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim berata v'divrechem hane'emarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Cry from the depths, says God. Do not hold back. Lift your voice like the shofar. Tell my people their transgression and the house of their sin. Yes, they seek me daily, as though eager to learn my ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right and has not abandoned God's law. They ask of me the right way, eager for God's nearness. They say, why did we fast and you did not see it? We afflict ourselves and you do not know it. Because even on your fast day, you think only of desire while oppressing all who work for you. Because your fasting is filled with strife, and with callous fists you strike. No, your fasting this day will not lift up your voice before heaven. Is this the fast I desire? A day to afflict body and soul? Bowing your head like a reed covering yourself with sackcloth
Alachof
and ashes?
ke'agman rosho.
Do you call this a
V'sach
fast?
ba'efer yatzia.
A day worthy
Alazeh tikrai tzom.
of the
V'yom
favor of
ratzon
Adonai?
L'Adonai.
Is not this the fast I desire? To break the bonds of injustice and remove the heavy yoke? To let the oppressed go free and release all those enslaved? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and to take the homeless poor into your home? And never to neglect your own flesh and blood?
Then shall your light burst forth like the dawn, and your wounds shall quickly heal. Your righteous one leading the way before you, the presence of Adonai guarding you from behind. Then, when you call, Adonai will answer. And when you cry, will respond, I am here. If you remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hand, the malicious word, if you offer your compassion to the hungry and satisfy the suffering, then shall your light shine through the darkness, and your night becomes bright as noon. If you offer your compassion to the hungry and satisfy the suffering, then shall your light shine through the darkness, and your night become bright as noon. Adonai will guard you always, slake your thirst in parched places, give strength to your bones. You shall be like a well-watered garden and unfailing spring. From you they will rebuild ancient ruins, lay foundations for ages to come, and you shall be called the one who mends the breach and brings back the streets for dwelling. If you cease to trample Shabbat, stop pursuing your affairs on my holy day. If you call Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Adonai, Mechubad, honored. And if you honor God by not doing business or speaking of everyday matters, then shall you take pure delight in Adonai. I will lift up your journey on earth to the highest places and nourish you from the heritage of your father Jacob. For thus spoke Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el haneman ha'omer v'yoseh ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al Torah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al ha'nevi'im, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, v'al yom ha'kippurim hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha, limchila v'lislicha, u'lechapara, lechavod u'letifaret. Al ha'kol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umevarachim otach, yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai, tamid leolam va'ed, udevarecha emet v'kayam la'ad, Baruch atah Adonai, melech mochel v'soleach la'avonotenu v'la'avonot amo beit Yisrael, u'ma'avir hashmotenu b'chol shana v'shana. Melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh hashabat v'Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh hashabat v'Yisrael. Melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh hashabat v'Yisrael. V'yom haKippurim. Amen.
I think we have a new custom here at Congregation Shir Shalom. They work very hard on that, and what a beautiful new way. I've never seen the Haftarah done that way. I'd like to invite up, as Harvey and Ronnie take their seats, our synagogue president, Todd Sugarman.
That was good. Good morning. Before I introduce our annual giving chairpersons, I neglected to say thank you to one person last week, and that's my mom, right there. So, I love you, Mom. All right. Walter and Diane Gordon had been members at Temple Sinai starting in 1993 and have continued being members through our merger 12 years ago. Walter and Diane have immersed themselves in this temple. They are always here for Friday night service. They come to almost every event we have, and more recently, after their retirement, they have become valuable volunteers. They are just a phone call away if we need their help. It is my honor to introduce Walter and Diane Gordon.
Good morning, barely. Walter and I are honored to be here this morning and to be the chairpersons for our giving campaign. Todd spoke to me about this about 6 weeks or so ago, and I was a little hesitant. He said to me, quote, "You have a story to tell, just tell it." I learned that it's not easy to say no to Todd. Many of you know me, but for those that don't, my name is Diane Gordon. I was a member of Temple Sinai, as Todd said, and then of course we became members here at Congregation Shir Shalom when we merged years ago. Our younger two children had their bar and bat mitzvahs at Sinai. I grew up in Amherst as the oldest of 7 children. My parents were devout Catholics. My brothers and sisters and I attended all Catholic school through high school. The only Jewish people I knew were Jenny Pohl, her husband, and her daughters. We were friendly neighbors, played with her girls growing up, but we never shared a meal or a holiday with them. I really wish we had. When I reconnected with Jenny here at Shir Shalom, it was wonderful. I brought her up to date about my brothers and sisters. She told me about Jody and Noreen. It was like going back in time. Jenny made me feel welcome. Thank you, Jenny. My parents were very involved in our parish and our schools. They served in a number of leadership roles in our parish school and our parish groups. You may be wondering why I'm telling you this on this holy day. My point is that devotion to God, practicing our faith, serving the community were all modeled in my family from birth. I came to Judaism through my husband, Walter. While we were dating, I started to attend services with him on Friday evenings at Sherry Zedek. I was completely intimidated attending there. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any prayers or songs or even when to sit or stand. At one of the services, while drinking coffee at the Oneg, a young woman came up to me and said quite bluntly, "You're Catholic, aren't you?" I thought, I must be wearing a sign or something. She told me that she had come to services many times and could see my discomfort as she had come as a Catholic and experienced the same thing. She was very supportive. A number of years later, as our 2 children began attending Sunday school and then Hebrew school, we decided to attend Temple Sinai at Marty Bates's invitation. Walter worked with Marty And Marty told us about a young rabbi and with young children and thought we might enjoy it. We became members, and the rest is history. I became a room mother, helped with Hamantaschen, the library, and made efforts to learn prayers and songs and to participate. Adrian Crandall was teaching there at the time and really took my daughter Katie under her wing. Katie thrived there because of her. Thank you, Adrian. I volunteered for bingo and got to know more people at bingo who taught me what to do there. Thank you to Sherry Joe. Over the years, we were present for holidays and occasional Friday nights. And then came the merger. To be honest, I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but we were willing to stick with our rabbi, and we were soon very happy to have a new building and many new friends. We had the opportunity to attend more Friday evening services and started to be known and know more here at CSS. There was a time about 5 years ago when I was invited on the bima with Walter, and the rabbi put a Torah in my arms. I don't know if he realized it or not, but I was in tears as I held it. I felt so accepted and honored. Thank you, Rabbi Alex. There are so many moments in the past years, but one more that stands out for me was the first service we gathered for after the shooting in Pittsburgh. Rabbi Alex and Cantor Arlene were struggling to lead a service, but you could tell their hearts were very heavy. I clearly remember being moved to tears again and looking around the sanctuary and thinking to myself, if the worst happened here, I would be proud to die with these people. I still feel that way. Like many of you, the pandemic changed life for us. I was already retired, and Walter could work from home and did for a while. Our day-to-day lives were quiet, uneventful, thank God, and we stayed home, as did most of our friends, family, and neighbors. We were pretty isolated. Our CSS leaders figured out how to keep our community going. The services on Friday night were the high point of our week. The Zoom services kept us engaged and connected. The schmoozing at the end of our service via Zoom was priceless. Thank you to Rabbi Alex, Cantor Arlene, Joanne, and everyone who made those, for all their hard work and made that possible. Last October 7th, as we've talked about, was a horrific day for the world, especially Jews. And once again, being together here, physically and spiritually, was healing in many ways. I know you're all thinking, when is she going to get to the point? Well, I really have already made my point. This community is very special. This community is extraordinary. The genuine welcome from Bruce, week after week, is just the beginning of the good feelings this man generates. The examples of dedication from so many people has inspired me to do all I can for our community. The friends I have made, the volunteer opportunities are priceless to me. A good friend here at Temple was speaking with me privately recently, and I asked her about her conversion, and she had very wise words for me. Quote, "No one here asks you to not be who you are." As a non-Jew, a Catholic girl who becomes more a part of this community every day, those words had a strong impact on me. Thank you, Marina. Today, Walter and I ask you to listen to our words and support our request to give to our community. I personally ask you to give as generously as possible, as Walter and I will do the same. Let's keep our terrific leaders, and I do mean terrific leaders, supported so that they can continue to give to us. Let's look at our beautifully updated sanctuary and give to maintain and improve our physical surroundings. Let's pause for a moment to remember all the amazing programs and services we've had in this past year alone. Let's look around for a moment, as our rabbi asks us to do every Friday night, at the people around us, the community we are a part of, and be grateful and generous to maintain this community. Thank you for your time and attention. Gemar Hatima Tova, and now I'll give you to Walter.
We should probably just quit there. But I agreed I would say something. March 3rd, 2003, the 914th Airlift Wing was activated for the invasion of Iraq. I was fortunate enough to be the flying squadron commander at the time, so when we sent six airplanes and 12 crews over to Saudi Arabia, I was the deployed commander for those folks. That may not sound like a good thing, but when you've trained for that, most of your life, it's kind of a blessing. So we went over there and we started flying support missions in the theater. A couple of weeks later, about March 19th, the war started, ground invasion moved in, and US forces started to move on Baghdad. And then we got word that perhaps they weren't moving as quickly as they thought, and there was a plan that we had to prepare to commit for a huge airdrop of huge formation of C-130s to airdrop the 82nd Airborne on Baghdad. And from Niagara Falls, we were tasked to provide 6 aircraft and 6 crews as part of this very large formation. And we were told we shouldn't worry about it too much because the radar threat had been suppressed, and all we really needed to worry about were MANPADS and Iron Sight AAA. So what does that mean? MANPAD is a shoulder-fired surface-to-air missile, one of the greatest threats you can have to a C-130. And Iron Sight AAA is a rapid-fire cannon with a guy actually looking right at you through a scope, shooting at you. These are very, very severe threats, and I was convinced that if I supplied 6 crews for this airdrop, at least one of them would not be coming back, if not more. So I sat down and I selected 6 crews. I went on the strength of the navigator, the loadmaster, the flight engineer, but mostly on the strength of the pilot in the left seat, the aircraft commander, and I picked 6 of them. Incidentally, Mark Abels, who's sitting right there, was one of those 6, and I remember writing in my journal that night, what would I tell Nan, his wife, if he didn't come back? We ended up not flying that airdrop. The Army made it to Baghdad in very short order, and it wasn't necessary. But meanwhile, for about a week, we thought we were going to. And during that time, not a single member of any crew came up to me or to anyone else and tried to make any excuse not to go. In fact, several of the aircraft commanders that were not chosen came up to me and were very indignant and upset and demanded to know why they were not chosen for this airdrop. And if you think about that, this makes no sense. I mean, I sincerely believe that at least one of these crews was not going to come back. So why were these men doing this? Why were these crews doing this? They were doing it for each other. They did not want to let down their friends. They wanted to be there with each other. They wanted to support their organization. They wanted to support the 328th Airlift Squadron. They did not do it for President Bush. They did not do it for the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and they sure as heck did not do it for me. They did it for each other. That was a very special time. It was a very special place. I never thought I would belong to another organization like that again until now, until Shir Shalom. The spirit, the togetherness that we have in this place is like nothing I've felt since that time we went to war 20 years ago. So I ask you, just like those crews, to do what you can for each other here today. Thank you for listening, and we'll now ask our Board of Trustees to walk around and collect the pledge cards that are completed, and we're very grateful for your support.
While they're coming around, if you want to stretch out, you can do that too. Move your bodies, that always helps you. And thank you on behalf of Congregation Shir Shalom. Raise your hand if you still have one of the green things, your tickets to hand. I see Dan Kester in the middle collecting. We're going to move towards the end of our morning service, the prayers, the confessional prayers, and we'll start on page 294. Page 294. Hear our call, Adonai our God, show us compassion, accept our prayer with love and goodwill. Take us back, Adonai, let us come back to you. Renew our days as in the past. Hear our words, Adonai, understand our unspoken thoughts. May the speech of our mouth and our heart's quiet prayer be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and our redeemer. Do not cast us away from your presence or cut us off from your Holy Spirit. Do not cast us away when we are old, our strength diminishes. Do not forsake us. Do not forsake us, Adonai. Be not far from us, our God. With hope, Adonai, we await you. Surely you, Adonai, our God, you will answer.
Bring us closer to finding you as we turn to you, as we learn from you. Kadesh Yameinu, renew our days, renew our days once again. Try with us.
Shema
you rise, if you're able, on the top of 296?
Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Tavo lefanecha, tefillatenu, ve'al titov מבחינתנו, שאנחנו הזפרים וקשי עורף לומר לפניך. אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אנחנו
We take our hand and lightly tap our heart, a reminder to do better.
I'm sorry. We're on a Shamnu.
I was already pounding the table.
Oh, okay. I'll give you mine.
See, she'd give the shirt off or the music off. Ken had to learn everything new this year, so we appreciate him.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
up Rebecca Shaw to lead us on page 305 in anticipation of the Al-Khait, We Focused Inward.
We focused inward, narrowing our vision. We were preoccupied with ourselves. We turned our backs on the poor and defenseless. We were contemptuous of the weak. We tolerated violence against children, neglect of the old, exploitation of the innocent. We told ourselves there was nothing we could do. We wasted the resources of the earth. We denied our own responsibility and put it out of our minds. We kept silent when we should have spoken out. We gave in to cynicism and despair. We sought entertainment instead of enlightenment. We were lazy, indifferent, and callous. We forgave ourselves too easily for our failures. We forgot that we always have a choice. Wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, politics without principle.
We read together on 304 and 306. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by hating without cause. The ways we have wronged you by losing self-control, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world by hardening of our hearts. The ways we have wronged you through greed and exploitation, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. The ways we have wronged you by offering or accepting bribes, and harm we have caused in your world by profaning your name in public. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Turn to page 310, where Ken was before, Kianu Amacha. As we go to the song, I'll invite Bruce Chorus up. He'll be offering the announcements right afterwards. Never put the Torah away. You didn't see it. You didn't see it. Yeah.
He's a rookie.
Adonai,
Apparently I need no introduction.
A man who needs no introduction.
Shabbat Shalom, Lashana Tova. Thank you, Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, Ken Kaufman, and our choir for a beautiful, meaningful service in honor of Yom Kippur. Thank you to Walter and Diane Gordon for very meaningful words today, speaking from the heart. And when people speak from the heart, it touches our hearts. A few years ago, Diane came up to me one night at an Oneg, and she said, you know, with all of the churches and all of the synagogues that I have been part of over the years, I have never felt so welcome as I do here at Congregation Shir Shalom. And that is the kind of thing you love to hear. And whatever small part I played in that, believe me, it got paid back in spades. Part of the story that people may not know is Diane's the one who got me to the hospital in time back in June. And if it weren't for her, we don't know how that would have turned out. So thank you for that. Thank you for everyone for being here and taking part in our very meaningful Yom Kippur services. The day will continue. We're going to segue right to Yizkor at 1 o'clock. If you don't want to stay for that, obviously, please, you can duck out. But most of you, I'm sure, will just stay in your seats. And we will segue right to that. That's when we will distribute our Book of Remembrance. Then we follow that at 2 o'clock with reflections. And as the rabbi mentioned, we have 2 survivors from the October 7th Nova Music Festival massacre. Their story is inspiring, it is emotional, and it is certainly timely as we just marked the 1-year anniversary. So thank you for being here with us today and for sharing your story. That's coming up at 2 o'clock.
Tomer and Shabbat, if you could just stand
Yeah,
up.
stand for a moment so we can see who you are. Thank you for being with us. Then at 3 o'clock, family service, Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, Dr. Andy Simons leading the service. That is open to the community. Then healing service is at 4:30. Mincha, Torah, and Nila service is at 6. Break the fast, we will be gathering in the social hall for that after the final shofar blowing, so approximately 7:15-ish, something like that. Thank you to Tara, Stephen, and Sadie Cross, and the Rabbi's Discretionary Fund for sponsoring that. Thank you as well to Todd Sugarman, anyone who has been to Whitechapel recently, if you were here for Kavera Avot, or just to stop and say and visit your loved ones. You've seen the work that Todd and his crew at TLS Landscaping did, maintaining our area there and trimming very thoroughly around all of the markers. It's a wonderful mitzvah that you do. Thank you for that. The men's group will be here tomorrow morning to build our sukkah, 9 o'clock, rain or shine. Dan Kester wanted me to be sure to say that. No experience necessary, no mechanical aptitude necessary, just be willing to show up and hold a hammer or a wrench or what have you. We will be having our new membership. Now I get to the point, Joanne put food in the announcements. People are in the middle of a day-long fast and I've got to start talking about food. We're going to have a new member Shabbat Friday, November 15th with a Shabbat dinner at 6 o'clock, followed by our Shabbat service. We will be welcoming and honoring our new members with blessings and a gift and a pie cook-off for the Oneg Shabbat. Diane, are you going to enter? All right, well, injured, but you can still. She makes, on top of everything else, she makes wonderful pies. Anyway, so we're going to have a pie cook-off. Then Jews of All Hues comes back. We are very proud that that's coming back for year 2. That is presented by our Adult Education Committee. Thank you to Ronnie and Evie for all your work on that. And thank you to Michael Berger for sponsoring that. Every month, we have, starting in November, running through June, we will be having a special Shabbat highlighting different regions of Judaism from around the world. The first month will actually be on the second Friday. That will feature Africa. The Oneg will follow, and that is catered by Bloom and Rose. So every month we'll have special foods from that part of the country. It was a wonderful first year, and we're very grateful that we can do it again for year 2. Speaking of food, this is an important one. If you didn't bring back your bag of non-perishable food yet, there's still time for that. Julia, when are they coming to collect? Do we know? Tuesday. So if you come, oh, I gotta say food again. If you're coming for Shevetas on Tuesday, and you haven't brought your food back, you can bring your bag of food then. Feed More Western New York will be coming to collect that. We have been doing this for many, many, many years, and our members give generously, and it's a wonderful deed as we help feed the hungry. We want to say a quick thank you to our communication committee for all their work throughout the year, making sure you know everything that is going on around here. And Mark Slonim wanted me to mention that there's a link on our website now to the annual giving, so if you want to make your donation online, you can do it that way. If you need anything at all during any of our holiday services, which will be continuing all day, be sure to check in with one of our greeters. They're wearing the badge at the boutonniere, or a board member wearing a badge, or Joanne, who is wearing a badge, but it doesn't matter. You can just approach her and get anything you need. She's here for you. Thank you, as always, for being part of this amazing Congregation Shir Shalom family. Happy New Year, healthy New Year, a safe New Year, a peaceful New Year, an uneventful New Year, and no matter what kind of year you had last year, a better year.
Just an announcement, we'll begin Yisker at 1:15 in here, so we'll have a little chance to stretch a bit. We're going to be turned to 3:18, concluding with Hayom. As you leave the sanctuary, if you're planning to sit in your seats, just leave your books where they are, but if you're going out, bring them back to the front. And if you're leaving in the parking lot, just navigate carefully and easy and meaningful fast. We'll continue at 1:15.
Okay.